Hello and welcome to In the Roud. Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I am your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode, in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode will feature two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly, both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers, and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join, and most meetings are free to attend. So, discover more about the TSF at tradsong.org. That's www.tradsong.org. But let's get going. This week's song is Roud 55, which is Child Ballad number 87, Prince Robert. Not a title most people will know, I reckon, but I do think most people will know it by the Irish variant title, Lord Abor and Mary Flynn. Later on, we'll hear from our singer guest, Jackie Oates, but for now, let's have a look at the history of this song with the creator of the Roud Index himself, Steve Roud. Hello and welcome back again, Steve Roud. Hello.
Hello again.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, yeah.
Fine, good. Yeah, glad to hear it. It's been 2 weeks, let me get this right, taking my diary in the spreadsheet. So this is the first of your 3 appearances in this season, but we've already recorded one of them. That's why my brain's confused.
Yeah, it seems like only yesterday.
It seems only yesterday.
Yeah.
Right, so I'll say that again without any of that stuff. It's nice to have you back. It's been quite a while on the since we last saw you. I mean, it's been November last year we had you on for Fair Janet. I think I might say something like that next week as well, because we've recorded next week's history side already, but there was someone else doing this history side, but personal reasons they've pulled out, so I've pulled my last resort card out.
Yes, that's right.
Steve Roud, you again.
Backup expert, me, yes.
Yeah, that's right. So
Fair
next week for Young Johnstone, I may start it by saying we haven't seen you since last November, but that's because at the time I didn't know we would be seeing you last week or the previous week from next week, if people see what I mean. Anyway, lovely to have you back on the podcast. I think you've been on the Patreon a couple of times, so it's good to be back here again. This is a song. We've had 4 quite well-known songs so far this season. We've had The Unquiet Grave, Little Musgrave and Lady Barnard, Child Morris or Gil Morris, and Barbara Allen last week, the big hitter. Yeah. And here we come to almost, not quite, but almost the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
So this is Roud, as I've probably said in the intro, this is Roud 55, Child Ballad 87. We've skipped over 86 and 85. You decided that after Barbara Allen, you weren't going to index Child 85, Lady Alice, or Child 86, Young Benji. For whatever reason, those two got skipped over at this point.
Okay.
And we jumped from 84, Barbara Allen, to Child 87, Prince Robert. Not a title most people know it as, I think, but it's the title that Child gives it.
Yeah, Child calls it Prince Robert. Yeah.
Yes, I think as we're going to come to find, most people know this as pretty much as an Irish song called Lord Abor and Mary Flynn. Yeah. But here we have, in Child, well, lots of different names, actually. I think, well, mostly Robert, but the women tend to have a variety of names. But
Yeah.
Prince Robert. So give us a rundown of what happens in the Ballad of Prince Robert.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So as you've said, the names change, even though there's only a handful of versions.
Yeah.
Um, Prince Robert, and he's sometimes Lord Robert, Lord Aboyne, as you said,
Oh yeah.
and and the woman in it is Mary Flynn, Mary Florence, Fair Eleanor, but there's
Ah,
hundreds of those.
her
Fair
again.
Eleanor comes into every other
Her.
ballad.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, because there's very little known about this song because we don't have many versions. We don't know much about it. Uh, Instead of me synopsizing, I'm going to read out what it says in a book which I'll mention in a minute by Natasha Wurzbach. I think that's how you pronounce it.
All right.
Wurzbach, Wurzbach,
Okay.
which is a motif index of the child corpus.
Oh wow.
So what she's done is go through all the child ballads, and she does give a synopsis of the song and to a certain extent a subject index. And I'll come on to that in a minute, but
Yeah.
this is the flavour of her summary, if you like, of the ballad, rather than me doing it. And as we got so few versions, that they're all pretty much, on the same theme. There's not that much change.
Sure. Okay.
So, as Prince Robert has married fair Eleanor against his mother's wishes, he is poisoned by the latter in her rage. In other words, the mother has poisoned Prince Robert. Before he dies, he sends for his wife, fair Eleanor, via a messenger. But by the time she arrives, he is already dead. His mother tells fair Eleanor that she will inherit nothing, even refusing to let her have Prince Robert's wedding ring, the only keepsake requested by fair Eleanor. Fair Eleanor then dies of grief. The bushes that grow out of the dead lovers' graves and intertwine are a sign of their love. So, not a lot of action. Well, we have unusually a mother not poisoning the woman that her son married, but poisoning him, which seems a bit of overkill.
Yes.
Um, in some versions, they're not actually married. He's just courting her, but not normally they have actually married. So he's gone against the mother's wishes, so she poisons him, and then fair Eleanor dies. So the mother doesn't come out very well on this one. Prince Robert himself doesn't really have much of a character in it. It's between the mother and fair Eleanor. And everybody, well, the mother seems to be still alive, but everybody else dies.
Right. Okay.
So that's pretty much the story of it. Now, Child, who only has 4 versions, which is, very small for Child. Sometimes you've got a dozen or 15.
Well, maybe then that's why you missed out Lady Alice and Young Benji, because Lady Alice Child only had 2 versions, and so with Young Benji 2 versions as well.
Well,
Maybe you were doing
you're
not.
just throwing this at me because I can't remember. I mean, I
Yeah,
indexed
yeah.
the Child volumes about 40 years ago,
Yes, I
so
saw. Yeah,
I can't remember.
but
I'll have to check.
maybe you were ignoring the ones with like 2 or fewer entries.
No, it wouldn't have been that. I
No.
don't know. I'll
Okay.
have to come. I'll come back to that. Don't change the subject.
Sorry. Sorry, sir.
Concentrate. Right. So, Child has 4 versions, as we said, and he says, "Quote: There are other ballad stories of a mother's poisoning because of displeasure at her son's match, but I know of none which demands comparison with this very slender tale."
It's an interesting
So,
definition of the word slender.
yeah, Child doesn't think much. That's damning with faint praise, basically. Child doesn't think much of it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been collected very often. Come on to that in a second. So Bronson, who does all, the magnum opus of the tunes. Has no
Oh,
tunes at all
nothing at
for
all.
it. His comment is that some people have suggested other tunes, but he doesn't believe any of them. But of course, he was writing before the post-war Irish collectors like Hugh Shields and Tom Munnelly were in the
Ah,
field.
yeah.
So we do have some recordings, which we'll mention in a minute. So we do have some tunes for it, but Bronson didn't know of any. It's obviously a Scottish ballad. It's been collected most in Scotland. In the first wave of ballad collecting in Scotland, about the year 1800, late 1790s, that sort of time. And as far as I can tell, the first person to publish it is Walter Scott in his very famous Minstrelsy of the Scottish Border, 1802. So we presume that it's an 18th century song, could be earlier. We'd got no broadsides. And
Oh, yes. Yeah.
as I've said on one of these other podcasts, which might be the one coming next week,
Yeah, that's
if
right. Next week.
if we don't have broadsides, then we're pretty much at sea because we've got no direct evidence. There's no datable evidence. It's all, it might have been in the oral tradition, but then again, it might not. So 1802 is the earliest I've been able to find. It was collected several times around that time, around Walter Scott's time, so early 19th century. So I reckon, it was also collected in Scotland in the post-Second World War period. So It's obviously stayed around in the tradition some way or other. It's just that people haven't noticed. So I reckon there's probably about 11 different Scottish versions. Probably 6 in Ireland, 2 in the USA, perhaps, maybe only 1. None, as far as I can tell, in England. And from what I can tell so far, none in Canada or Australia or whatever. So it's mainly Scotland and Ireland that have got the versions.
Sure.
So again, there's not a great deal to go on.
That's right. There's only 31 entries in the index, and as you said, zero in the broadside index. So
yeah, that's right. So we're sort of on our own there. There's not much else that we can actually say about this particular song. There's no, as I say, if there's no tunes in Bronson, you can't do your usual sight reading of tunes.
Oh, I'm sure
people will
people were very glad of that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to. I'll just reel off a couple of things. Yeah. So names, obviously, 4 versions in Child. So Child A, which is the Scots Minstrelsy, Prince Robert, and her name is Fair Eleanor. That's that one, Prince Robert, Fair Eleanor. Child B is one from Motherwell's Minstrelsy.
Yeah, so that's 1820s.
That's the 20s. That's Earl Robert. And I don't think she has a name. Oh, Mary. There's Mary in there towards the end. She gets named towards the end of that one. Version C, Lord Robert and Mary Florence. You mentioned that. And Child D, Prince Robert, Mary Florence again.
Yeah.
Some other names turn up though, place names and things that were I found quite interesting. So we have in the A version in Child's, they want he goes to Darlington and Sillertown as well, Sillertown. If any of these places still exist, that's quite nice. But off the top of my head,
But my favourite is the C version where it's 19 miles to Strawberry Castle.
oh, that's very good. Yeah,
I think Strawberry Castle, that's where you go to be poisoned. It doesn't really matter, does it?
Strawberry. There's some versions of is it Scarborough Fair that are called like Strawberry Fair or something?
Yeah,
Or
Strawberry Fair. Yeah, but that's a
Strawberry
little
doesn't.
bit different.
It's not. Yeah. You think anyway, but you
Yes,
also get um what's that called? Nottingale Castle, Knotingale, not Nottingale
Nottingale. Yeah,
as well. So I don't know where that is. And then also, interestingly, in the Motherwell one, starts with it's 50 miles to Sittingen's Rocks with an apostrophe, as in the rocks of Sittingen. And
which is
I
presumably Saint John or Saint something.
St John's Rocks.
Yeah,
I hadn't
something like that.
I hadn't thought about that because I just typed exactly Sittingens with an apostrophe and rocks into Google, and the only things that have come up is this version in the child ballads. And the
Yes.
first entry is the entry for this child ballad in your index.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
in the Motherwell.
even child put it into Google. Isn't
Yeah,
that clever?
exactly.
Yeah.
So Sittingen's Rocks, which is, but yeah, quite possibly some form of St John's Rocks or not St John, that's something else. Um, and yeah, Lord Robert Nottingale Castle. And so yeah, there's some interesting, even within like the four versions in charge, quite minimal. There's a wider variety of names of people and places than you might expect.
Yes, considering there's only a few versions. Yes.
If there were, 17 different versions, or even like nine or something, you'd expect that kind of variety. But considering there's only four,
Yeah. So
and
we
even
could,
sorry, and even Child says version A is translated by Schubart, so it translated. Oh, but it's from the Scots Minstrelsy.
yeah,
How?
but no, what he means is it's published in Scots Minstrelsy, then somebody else has translated it into whatever language it is. Schubart, did you say? Or
Yeah,
Schubert, into
Schubert.
German or whatever. In other words, somebody has translated that version into their language,
Oh, I see.
not the other way around.
Not the way around. Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
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 Right, proceed.
So one thing I was thinking that we could do just to fill in our time a bit to give your listeners their money's worth.
It's
Let's talk about poisoning in ballads
oh
because
yes.
that's
Let's.
about the only thing that happens in this one is that the mother poisons the son. And your listeners might find this interesting, or they can turn off now. Talk a little bit about how to find out about subjects within songs,
Oh yes.
because that's not easy. My index, for instance, gives you the title and the first line, but at least half the people who ask me about songs want to know a song about so and so, or a
Yes.
song that features so
That's
and
right.
so.
You might not be looking for a song because of its title or its first line. You might
Yeah,
be wanting a song about infanticide or something or
yeah,
whatever. But yeah,
exactly. Yes, and that is a very common thing that we're asked, and it's quite difficult because at the moment, as we'll say in a second, that there isn't a subject index to all the songs. But so you have to go about, a bit of lateral thinking. You have to go out a bit sideways. There is, no, come on to that in a second. So getting back to the poisoning thing, according to the book that I just quoted, the motif index of the child corpus, so she has indexed the songs by subject up to a point. I should hesitate to say when it first came out, I didn't give it a very good review, but I'm now a bit more kind about it. Poisoning does come up in her index, and she tells us, which I didn't know, we got 6 of the child ballads include the theme of
oh,
poisoning, or death by poisoning is the subject. So there's Lord Randall, which the famous one,
that's right.
Eels, Dear Mother, and
That
Henry,
was
My
the
Son.
final episode of our first season.
Yeah. Prince Robert, which is today's thing. Queen Eleanor's Confession, Child 1556, where she confesses that she has poisoned someone else. Child 231, the Earl of Errol, which I'm not familiar with, but in some versions there's a poisoning. Child 260, Lord Thomas and Lady Margaret. Child 261, Lady Isabel. Now, I think I'm right in saying that it's always females that poison. And we know this from crime dramas that poisoning is, the murder method of choice for females in the past.
Sure.
Then there are other famous, well-known songs that are not in Child, like Oxford City, Poison in a Glass of Wine.
Oh, yes.
Where a young man poisons his girlfriend out of jealousy. Villikins and His Diner, and the song that's based on is Diana and Sweet William, where the young woman, the girl, takes poison, a cup of cold poison as a suicide. So this is a theme. We've already got 8-10 songs that we've mentioned which have this theme. So it's something that people might ask.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a project at the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library called the Song Subject Index. So if you go to their website, go under Catalogues and Indexes, you can find the index. Now, it's relatively new. I mean, I've been doing my index for 50-odd years.
Yeah.
This isn't quite that old, and they're slowly it's done by volunteers. So if you like this sort of thing, volunteer to do this, where they do subject index the song. So you can type in poison.
I'll tell you what, I'll do that right now.
Do that right away. If I remember rightly, you get
poison. Search the master index, poison search, and we get Oxford City, Roud 218, and Roud 74, Queen Eleanor's Confession.
Queen Eleanor's Confession. So
which we'll come to in November this year, in fact, on the podcast.
Right.
So.
Remember this moment when you get to 74. So the point being that out of the 10 songs that I've mentioned which have poisoning, they've only done 2 of them so far. But it's an ongoing project. So bit by bit, they will chip away at the whole corpus. So that's one thing you can do if you're looking for subjects.
Yeah. And then what happens is that it brings the list of songs up, and then if you click on it, then you get a whole load of information about the song.
Yes.
You get titles, alternate titles, Roud numbers, a plot synopsis, where it can be found, how many characters are in it, how many male and female characters are in it.
That's right. So it's a proper sub, so
song voice, as in, I suppose, the gender of the narrator.
That's right. Is it a man or a woman or a child or whatever?
And there's a bit of song history for Oxford City. It says, see Roud and Bishop, brackets 2012. That must be the new Penguin Book of English Folk Songs.
That's right, yes, which is where they've got, because they have to index one particular version.
Yeah, that's right.
And then say, but sometimes it's something else. So,
there are loads of other subject terms you can look up for that one. So it's also under dancing, true love, jealousy, murder, sweethearts, wine. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So they're doing it. I'll
click on sweethearts, and just as a demonstration, if I click on sweethearts, nothing comes. Oh, there we go. 161 entries there.
Right, yes, because sweethearts are quite common in folk songs. Yes.
And the first one is The Lass of Rock Royal, Roud 49. That's Lord Gregory from the last season. So it all links up.
Yeah.
And they're listed in Roud number order, which I find extremely helpful, and no one else does.
Yes. What else are you going to do? Who needs alphabetical order anymore when you've got Roud numbers?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Yeah. So the point being is that they're doing it very well. They are doing it very professionally. And the key point of this is that although we've just searched for poisoning, you also want that to come up if you're searching for murder.
Right.
Right? Because murder is a broader term in terms of subjects. Murder is a type of death. So death, murder is the next thing down. Poisoning, death by poisoning, death by drowning, you know what I mean. In other words, you can search for a broad topic like murder, and you'll find the poisoning ones. Or you can search for a uh, narrow term, a specific thing like poisoning,
Yeah,
and you get it. So again, that's the professional, proper way, that librarians do
that's
this
right.
this kind of thing. It's quite
I,
complicated,
I've
but
just done that. I typed in murder. It's come up with 59 songs, and then if you type in poison, you get two.
yeah,
So it's
that's
all,
right. Yes.
yeah,
So, you know, you're doing a program, a television program about songs and on murder. You start off by saying, "Oh, well, let's have poisoning. Oh, there's only two of them. Let's have a broader term and go to something else."
yeah,
Anyway, right. So that's one thing you can do, and you just hope that they've indexed the song. The other thing, if you're doing subjects, you can use my folk song index and the broadside index, um, because there is a field called keywords, I think it's called, um,
yep.
where
Keywords.ai.
if it's a song that I don't know already, I was often put in keywords from the plot of the song, just to remind me that what this song is about. So it's not a thesaurus like the subject index, but you'll be surprised how often it does give you a hit. So you search for all fields and just type in, something like, no, I can't think of a word, but poisoning may be there. I don't know. Um, but it's very hit and miss. But if you find, of course, any hit, you then research on the Roud number and you get all the versions.
Yeah, I've just typed in poison into all fields. 90 entries. Songs called Poison Beer, Poison Serpent, Poison Love, Rank Poison, Cup of Poison, Three Drops of
Yeah.
Poison.
Okay. So that's that's a broad sort of scattergun approach.
Yeah.
For instance, the poisoned serpent, the serpent hasn't murdered him. He just, is a venomous snake. So
It's the serpent's nature. Yeah.
yes, so it's an accident rather than a murder. But it's linked by the word poison.
Yeah.
So that's the way you have to think when you're doing subject searching. Okay. Now, for the child ballads, as I said, there is this book by Natasha Wurzbach, which Vaughan Williams Library, of course, will have, and other major libraries,
Yeah.
called the Motif Index of the Child Corpus. So that has an index to it, just to the child ballads.
And
So, in
that's
other
about
words, there
that's
isn't one place you can go for subject index.
right.
Uh, there's all these different places where you try and do whatever it's very hit and miss. And of course, you can just Google it, but then you have no idea whether what comes up is accurate or not
That's
because
right.
you don't know who put it there. But to be honest, I use Google all the time. If there's a bit of a song that I got in the back of my head and I think, what the hell is that song? I Google that phrase,
Yeah.
and you can find it.
Indeed.
Yeah,
And you can buy that book, the Motif Index of the Child Corpus, from abebooks.co.uk for £131.
that's
That's how
well,
much.
yes,
That's how
but
much. That's almost how. It's about half of what my boiler repair cost that last weekend.
yeah, but which would you rather have, a boiler or an index to the
Hmm.
child
A
corpus?
warm house or a motif index to the child corpus.
No,
I mean, there's
no contest.
no contest.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah. But it is available there and libraries and everything as well.
yeah.
Uh,
As I say, Vaughan Williams will have it. People like me who are daft enough to spend that much money on a book
yeah.
will
Yeah.
have it. So there are copies around
Indeed.
if you need it.
And
Everybody
so
just write to Matt and make him buy the book.
yeah, that's right. If we were to chip into the Matt Quinn book fund,
Yeah.
then yeah, my shelves need filling. But yeah, going back to this song then to round off, yeah, if we just look at so basically the four versions in Child are all Scots,
Yeah.
and there are 12 entries in the Roud Index for Scotland, most of which will be these four and reprints of.
Yeah, that's right. The
Including
early ones get printed over and over again.
Yes, it's in the Oxford Book of Ballads, but that'll be a reprint of the
Child,
Scots
yeah,
Minstrelsy, the Christie traditional ballads. Yeah, Motherwell Minstrelsy, Child Volume 2, and yeah, the book about the song repertoire of Amelia and Jane Harris
yes.
as well. And then Bronson mentions that one, which is Child D.
Child D is the Harris
The
manuscript.
Harris
Yeah,
manuscript from but Harris manuscript from the recitation of Mrs. Mollison. So it's not actually it's not actually, as Bronson says, comes from the Harris manuscript, but not out of Mrs. Harris's own repertoire, and consequently, no tune was preserved by her means.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
So
So
it's a Harris
we've
manuscript, but it's not a Harris.
missed
So
another one. Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those are what we have for Scotland. The next biggest is Ireland. There's 10 entries, and we'll mention those in a minute. We'll come back to them in a second. Yeah, four
Yeah.
entries in the USA, three of
Well, I
which
think,
are the same singer.
yeah,
FC Gaynor, which from Tanner, or at least collected in Tanner in West Virginia,
West Virginia. Yeah.
and that's printed in a 1925 book that seems to be written in French, possibly the title Folk Songs du Midi de
Yeah.
Etats Unis. How wise of
Yes,
me not
that's
to
right.
attempt the accent.
By
And
Josiah Combs.
yeah, and also in 1974 in American Folk Poetry as well. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
40 miles to Nicut Hill, Nicut.
Okay.
I'm sure that might be somewhere. And then the only other, so that's one person, but there's three entries. And then this other name turns up, Harry Saunders, as in the character. Instead of Prince Robert, we get a lot of Harry Saunders. And Harry Saunders, yeah, Mrs. Nan Wilson sang it apparently, and it's in the 1975 book by Gaynor, Folk Songs from the West Virginia Hills.
Yeah.
And
But you'll notice that Gaynor is the singer in the Combs book that you just mentioned.
right.
In other words, he's sometimes a singer and he's sometimes a
So
collector.
so Patrick W. Gaynor collected it from Mrs. Nan Wilson and put it in his book, Folk Songs in the West Virginia Hills. And
Yeah.
then
Combs collected it from Gaynor.
Combs collected it from Gaynor and put it in Folk Songs of the Southern United States.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. So
Yes.
so yeah, it's four entries, but that's two singers, which equates to one version of the
That's
song.
right. That's right.
Well,
None of this is as simple as it seems.
no, exactly.
Welcome to my world. Yeah.
And there is one writing of or mention of Canada, but it's a reference only in the trad ballad in North America,
Yeah.
1977.
Traditional ballads. That's not a book of song texts. It's a survey.
Right.
So
Okay.
he's going around saying, there's versions of this here and there. So the book is about USA and Canada because it's North America.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Correct.
in this case, as far as I know, there are none in Canada.
Yes, that's right. I was looking up something for something else recently, and I was having to use. I might have been indexing something, but I was going through a PDF copy I've got of. I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it. Is it 4 volumes of London Labour and the London Poor.
Henry Mayhew.
Henry Mayhew.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, there's lots of because I was going through the Roud Index, looking at the songs that are mentioned in there, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's a whole song, sometimes it's a fragment, a couple of verses, and sometimes there's about 20 songs that I just reference only because on one page he said these songs were here.
Yes, that's right. Yes. But that might be, if he says these songs were popular in 1851, that's useful to know.
Absolutely.
Useful for somebody. That's why they're indexed. It's
Absolutely.
evidence. It's all evidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. However, then Ireland is where. So Scotland says effectively one version in America. We're a bit unsure about, and then in Scots is where you get the printed versions, and not the printed ones as in broadsides, but publications and things.
Publications, yes.
But in Ireland, we get field recordings.
Yeah, that's right.
Oral tradition. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's right. And they're recent. They're 1970s
Right.
kind of
And
time.
even though there's 10 entries in the index for Ireland, that's only three singers.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because collectors went to the same singers over and over again. Of
That's
course they would, it's a good
that's
singer.
right. So we got Greg O'Hanlon from
Yeah,
Crumlin in Dublin
Dublin.
in the Tom Mullany collection, and just the one entry for Greg. To say gets his own entry there. We've got Frank Feeney, I think turns up most from
Yeah,
Leopardstown, County Dublin.
yeah. Or usually it's listed as just Dublin.
Right, okay. And we've also got Jim Kelly as well.
Yeah, yeah.
As well. So
And
yeah,
they're all from the Dublin area. I mean, Jim Kelly's from Dunleary, which is, just down the road.
yeah,
So, yeah, three singers in the 1970s. And of course, that brings up the question, and again, we must have said this, and I might say it with young Johnson next week. We know that this song existed in the early 19th century. We've got the four versions in chart from 1802 to 1823, something like that. And then we don't hear of it again until in
1972.
1970s. Okay, there's
Yeah,
there's two or three versions in North America in the 20s and 30s, but putting them aside for a moment, has it continued in the in hiding basically in the oral tradition, but nobody's noticed it all the way from 1820 to 1970, or it is possible that somebody in 1950 found it in an old book
yeah.
and started singing it again, and the people who were recorded in the 1970s, their versions only go back to 1950 in the oral tradition.
Yeah.
In other words, we never ever know the full story of this stuff.
That's right. And they've all got different names because the Scots ones tend to be Robert. I mean, it's all Robert and
Yes.
Mary, Marie, or Eleanor. And so it's a bit like I'm a oh, it wasn't you on that episode back in season one for the Three Ravens. That was Steve Gardam.
Yes.
In the three areas of the world where that song seems to have popped up, which is England,
Scotland.
Scotland, and America, you've
Yeah.
got three different names. You've got England. It's the three
Three
Raven,
crows. Or
three
three
crows. Thank you.
Yeah.
Three crows. In Scotland, you got the Twa Corbies. In America, you got the Ravens.
Raven. Yeah.
And so with this song, it appears that in Scotland it's Robert, in America it's Harry Saunders, and
Yeah.
and then in Ireland we get Lord Abor, or we get two different versions of Abor, and Mary Flynn is Constance.
Yeah.
Abor, we get one word Abor as in Abore, and we get Obor as in O apostrophe Bore.
Yeah.
It equates to
Okay.
the same sort of thing, but that's just a Robert Abor. There's
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's just an
yeah,
anagram of Robert, really. So, yeah. And of course, the danger is that because we've got so few versions here, we can't jump to conclusions.
no,
With the Twa Corbies, three crows, we've got hundreds of versions.
yeah, that's right.
So we're on fairly safe ground if we say, well, in England it's called this, and in Scotland it's called that, because we've got lots of evidence. But when you've only got, three here and six there, we can make educated guesses because we know roughly what happens to ballads in the oral tradition,
Yeah,
but we can't make proper statements.
no, there's
And
no way of yeah.
anybody who does is cheating a little.
Is a fool. Yeah, never argue with a fool, for he is doing the same.
That's right.
As
Or a folklorist.
that's right. That was a Les Barker line. Yeah, never argue with a fool, for he is doing the same. You know.
Okay.
You know. But it does seem that we do seem to at least have different character names for for where this song turns up.
Yeah.
They seem to be, and so apart from Abor and Robert, which it's likely that's just a deliberate changing. But then Harry Saunders, where's that come from? We've
Yeah,
got we've
but
got no way of drawing any kind of through line
no, that's right,
at
because
all.
we've only got one version anyway.
Yeah,
If we knew that everybody in America called it Harry Saunders, we'd be looking for a broadside printed in Philadelphia.
yeah,
But we don't, we just have the one. He could have made it up. The collector might have misheard. Uh, there are many things that change, especially names. I mean, names are slippery anyway.
oh yeah,
Um, but if they were all the same, as I say, with the Trois Corbiers, the Ravens, if they're nearly always the same in England, nearly always the same in Scotland, then we got something we can be sure of.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know that Peggy Seeger, this is the revival side really, but Peggy Seeger did sing Harry Saunders once on an album and wrote some sleeve notes on it, but she just says Harry Saunders, brackets, given the title of Prince Robert by Child. She didn't appear to have any thoughts on the matter at all about the names. It's just that's what it's called over there, so that's what I'll sing.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we've
I think we've done him to death.
We've eked this out really. Without looking into like subtext of the subject and stuff, which is that's Vic Gammon territory. He likes that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Can't have everything.
No, exactly. But yeah, I think we'll leave things there anyway, and we'll hear some more about it from Jackie Oates later because she sings one of the Irish ones. So yeah, we'll come to that. And yes, thanks very much as always for
All
this.
right, thanks for having me.
Hopefully you'll be able to supply me with at least 2 out of the 3
Yes,
Irish
I can.
Irish ones.
If I can find them, I've got them somewhere.
Yeah, grand stuff. So we'll see you next week for the already recorded history of the next one. So until then, Steve Roud, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, bye for now.
A huge thanks again to Steve Roud for providing us with the history of the song Prince Robert. Just 2 clips of traditional singers this time, as opposed to the infinite number of options for last week's song. So let's hear Lord Abor, that's with an A, sung by Jim Kelly, and Lord Obor, that's O''Bor, sung by Frank Feeney.
Lord Abor and Mary Flynn were both children young. They were scarcely 14 years of age when love between them sprung. When love between them sprung. Now Lord Abor was going out one day, and when his mother came to know, "You are going away, my son," she said, "you will drink before you'll go. You will drink before you will go." She called for a cask of the very best wine and filled a glass for him. To her fault with her 2 fingers, she put strong poison in. She put strong poison in.
Lord Abor and Mary Flynn, their 2 were children young. They were scarcely 14 years of age when love between them sprung. When love between them sprung. Lord Abor was going out one day, and says his mother to him, "You're gone away, dear son," she says, "you'll drink before you'll go. Oh, you'll drink before you'll go." She brought him down a bottle of wine and filled a glass for him. With her false, with her 2 fingers, she put strong poison in. Oh, she put strong poison in.
There we go. That was Jim Kelly and Frank Feeney. I just want to take a couple of minutes now to tell you about our Patreon. Patreon is a way for you, the listener, to help support the podcast. Obviously, you are supporting just by listening. That's as much help as I'll ever need or want. But if you feel moved enough and are able to afford to support the podcast financially, then for a monthly subscription on our Patreon, we produce a myriad of bonus episodes. We mainly cover songs from elsewhere in the Roud Index, courtesy of a strand of episodes called Singer's Choice. So that's where I get one singer guest to come on for 3 whole episodes, and we cover 3 songs of their choosing. Consequently, it's like applying a random number generator to the Roud Index. We've had mini-seasons so far with guests such as Nancy Kerr, John Doran and Jess Arrowsmith, George Sansom, and many more. We're also producing episodes looking at other aspects of folk songs and folk song collecting in the form of spotlight episodes. If you feel so moved to support the podcast financially, then please do head on over to patreon.com/intheroud, and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month. We're in the middle of our current Singer's Choice mini-season on Patreon, so for 3 episodes I am joined by singer Kathy Tattersfield for songs chosen by her, and this week we'll be looking at her second song choice. That's Roud 916, a song called Shot Like a Bird in a Tree, with history segment provided by Steve Roud. Sign up to hear this and more at patreon.com/intheroud. And so we move on to the second half of this episode. My singer guest for this half has been on the Patreon before, but not the podcast. The first episode we did in 2025 was on all things wassail, and we covered the Gloucestershire wassail as the song, which is Roud 209. And for that episode on Patreon, and now here, we have the singer Jackie Oates. So I hope you enjoy my chat with Jackie as we discuss all things Prince Robert. Well, hello and welcome to In the Roud, Jackie Oates. Hello.
Hello, Matt.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad that the sun's out and everything's getting a bit more spring-like and happy.
I know, exactly. We're recording this all out of order, and so this is an afternoon we're recording this on. Yeah. This morning, I interviewed Brian Peters for a song that's coming out in 2 weeks' time. It's amazing. Roud 57, and in that one, he asked me how I am, and so I said my boiler broke last weekend. But that was last weekend, as in the 14th, 15th of March, not last weekend from the 8th of April, if that makes sense. So when I say I'm doing all right, but I've been through the wars a bit, that's recent. But if you hear me say that again in 2 weeks' time, that's old news. Yeah, things are all right. Been through the mill a bit with car trouble, boiler trouble, general illness, but all fine now. Just gearing up to go on tour with George Sansom. We've got some gigs coming up. If people are listening to this when this goes out, I will have done one of them already, Croydon Folk Club, and this coming weekend, Everyman Folk Club in Suffolk, Glossop Labour Club in Glossop, and Runcorn Folk Club in Cheshire. So, out back on the road doing gigs with George, which is one of my all-time favourite things. So, and then delving into ballads as well for the podcast. And yeah, lovely to have you here. It's your first time on the podcast, but not your first time in the Roud world.
Nay, it's my first time on the proper podcast.
That's right. We had you. So this is March 2026. You were involved in an episode on the Patreon in January of 2025. We did the Gloucester Wassail for the first week of January, which was lovely. We had Carol Davis in the first half, and then you in the second half talking about... Carol Davis was talking about all things wassail, and then you came on to talk about Gloucestershire wassail. That's Roud 209. So in about 2032, everyone will hear that episode. Or 2030, I think, maybe. Everyone will hear that episode, because on the podcast we will reach Roud 209.
My goodness.
even if we're at even if we're at 55 today. But yeah, so it's been over a year since you've been on In the Roud in general. So the people on the Patreon will have heard you talk about your history with folk music, but everyone else who listens to the podcast has not. So starting us off, give us a bit of Jackie Oates' history, a sort of musical upbringing, and your sort of history and relationship with folk music.
Okay, so I'll keep it brief. So I was born in Congleton in Cheshire to Morris dancing parents who loved music. My dad was a keen melodeon player and guitarist, and I went to lots of festivals and was very into the violin, but not really into singing because I was very shy. And then when I moved to Devon to go to university, having had this big folky upbringing, I discovered the traditional ballad singing scene in Dartmoor and in like very remote little bits of Devon. And my housemate had a car. And so I ended up really honing in on ballad singing, unaccompanied ballad singing, and the art form of it. And that's where the sort of obsession started. And I ended up staying down in Devon for a decade, just to be surrounded by all of this sort of inspiration, and didn't really have a plan for the rest of my life. So I just got by doing gigs, performing. And then I moved up to Oxfordshire in 2011, and I've been performing ever since, really. So I have this lifestyle where I'm part-time folk singer and part-time music psychotherapist.
Excellent. And yeah, you are, and relationship with me, you are the person, a sort of a contemporary, as it were, who I have known on the folk scene the longest.
Well, here's the weird thing. I was basically your babysitter. In a way,
kind of a musical
gap,
babysitter in a way,
and we wouldn't feel like that now, but at the time I was, I think, 18 and you were about 12,
about 11 or 12. Yeah,
and those 6 years make a big difference, don't they, when you're that age?
Yeah, you did seem to be like, I mean, 18, so you were an adult, but like you looked like a fully fledged adult because I was 11 or 12, you know,
much like a little boy. And you were really wide-eyed and sweet and tiny, and you had a mandolin, and you wanted to talk about Star Wars. And you were so adorable.
I still do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this was Sidmouth Folk Festival. I'm 36 now. This year will be my 34th or 35th Sidmouth Folk Festival. Wow. I've been to every single one, apart from, so I'm 30. This is silly. I'm 36. I should have been to 36 Sidmouths, but there was 1 year where the festival didn't happen, so I could only have been to 35, and there was 1 year I missed one. So I've been to 34.
Right.
So this will be my 35th this year.
Yeah.
And so all through my childhood, my dad was always booked to do sessions and MC gigs and things. And so my mum and I always went, and it was kind of a holiday for us. The seaside and music and stuff, and I liked my parents' friends, so that was all very fine. And then I was playing music as a kid, violin, mandolin, and then it got to the age 11 or 12. My mum sort of finally had enough and said, "Look, there's other young people your age playing folk music over there every morning from like 10 till 12 in the thing called Shooting Roots." And my mum said, "Go there and learn folk music from other people your age and people a bit older," as it turns out. And that was when Shooting Roots, the youth service thing, was run by Laurel Swift.
Yeah.
She was in charge, wasn't she? And I turned up, didn't know anyone at all. I remember feeling quite shy, and can you imagine? And I didn't know what to do. And they put us all in groups, and I just got put in your group.
Yeah.
It was me and a load of fiddlers, and I had the mandolin, and there was a load of fiddlers. And yeah, we've known each other ever since. So I only knew then. The following year, I came out to Shooting Roots, and I deliberately went in your group because we knew each other.
Yeah.
And that was the only 2 years I did Shooting Roots, and but then we just, lifelong friends after that.
Absolutely.
It's always. I don't think we've ever actually played music together, have we? Have we ever, apart from the Shooting Roots things at the very beginning, have we ever collaborated on anything?
No, but we've been in hundreds of sessions together.
Oh, sessions, yeah, but
Yeah.
actually in our professional performing lives, we've not collaborated on anything.
No.
Well, we'll change that one day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So consequently, I have known you for 25 years, which is a horrifying thing to say out loud. But yeah, since I was 11, and I'm 36 now, so that's astonishing.
Yeah.
It's been lovely, and it will continue to be lovely, I'm sure.
Will.
And because I remember, and how's this for a segue to what we're talking about today? Yeah, I was sort of going to the gigs. I always went to see gigs with you. You came to the Royal Oak Folk Club in Lewis with Ed Rennie, as the duo doing at the time,
Did.
and you stayed with me and my parents. I remember that.
Did.
And I remember your first solo album coming out, and on it is this song.
Song.
How does he do it? Yeah, and on it is Lord Abor and Mary Flynn.
Yeah.
And this is always, and as I said to Steve Roud earlier, I kind of knew of this song through people like you, and that was basically it, I think. I'd only ever heard you sing it. And so I wasn't really aware of the song much. And I also wasn't aware that it was actually called Prince Robert until I did the prep for the history half with Steve, and I opened my copy of the Child Ballads to number 87, and it wasn't called Lord Abor and Mary Flynn. It was called Prince Robert, and it took me completely by surprise. And then through that history half with Steve, I found out that the Scots versions are Prince Robert or variants of, and then the Irish ones are Lord Abor and Mary Flynn.
Yeah.
And this rogue American one called Harry Saunders.
Yeah.
As well, which we're not entirely sure how that's come from, where that's come from, what's happened to that one. There's not enough evidence, basically. But so, yeah, for me, I came across this song because you sang it on that first self-titled solo album. So where does this song come from for you? Were you aware of this song for a long time, or was it something that was like a new thing for you for the album? Or
So this was a period of my life where I was living in Exeter, and I had just graduated, and I'd stayed in Exeter because of this kind of love of balladry, which I couldn't really access in the same way up in Staffordshire, where I come from. And my friend Sean O'Shea, who was in a group called The Clack.
I was about to ask if he was in The Clack.
Yeah, and him and Barry Lister and Dave Lowry, who sadly passed quite recently,
He
did a sing around, and Sean would often say, "Oh, I've got this song for you," and he would sing these songs that were really quite unusual, and there was always an element of them that really grabbed my imagination. So I remember him singing me this song, and there was just something about the haunting image of these two really young children. It was the scarcely 14 years of age, or was it 13 years of age, love between them sprung. That line stayed in my mind for years, and I sort of wanted a way to approach the ballad. And then I got playing music with Ed Rennie. So Ed Rennie is a fantastic box player in a group called the Bismarcks, but he's also a beautiful singer, and he got a what was it called, a bouzouki or a cittern, and we were at a festival in Black Dog, Pennymore Song and Ale, and I watched him play this really long ballad accompanied by a very sparse cittern, and that opened up a kind of world for me, this idea of singing songs that have a lot of space in them, and that space allows the song to breathe and allows the nuance to really come across. So that's sort of how we ended up taking this ballad and putting together this very, very empty arrangement. And I loved it. And it was only after I'd recorded it that I came across a really beautiful recording and heard it on a vinyl for the first time. I'd never heard anyone else sing it before that.
Nice. Yes, and I remember Ed Rennie and you, as I said, you two came to our folk club in Lewis, and Yeah, you stay with us, and Ed stayed in his van, I think, as
That's
he was
great.
wont to do. It's and you probably sang the song then.
Yeah, I would have done, and it's quite a bold move. I don't think I would choose to sing a song of that length with that much, like that little accompaniment going on. I think that's maturity has sort of changed how confident I am about doing things
It's
that are so long.
it's not a particularly young thing is to like do like sparse. If
No.
I say thoughtful, that sounds like I'm sort of having a go at young people for not being thoughtful. But, there's a certain when you're a bit younger, there's a tendency to. I don't mean to be more showy offy, but there's a tendency to be a bit more brash about things, to show, to just demonstrate that you are musically competent and whatever, and to be a bit
Yeah,
like big about things. And as you get older, you
absolutely.
start to realize that actually it's just calm things down a bit. And
But I seem to have gone the opposite way, don't
oh,
I? Thinking about it. With this song, I don't think I would record this song in the same way
okay,
if I were to do it now. Um, Interestingly, yeah.
yeah, it's just and yeah, that thing about two young
Yeah.
children.
Can I talk about that a bit more?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
find that fascinating. So, the song is about this very, very jealous mother who, but it's bizarre being a mother myself. You
yeah.
would have thought she would be jealous of Mary Flynn marrying her precious boy, and all of her wrath and her jealousy would be directed at her. But actually, she murders her son because he is going out with this girl she doesn't like. And you think, well, isn't that counterintuitive? Like, why?
Well, actually, you get that in folk songs a lot, but it tends to be the father who doesn't
Yeah,
like the daughter's choice of boyfriend, and normally it's songs like "The Pretty Ploughboy" or whatever, and he ships the press gang is summoned, and the young suitor is shipped off to the wars, rather
this
than
is
rather than poisoning him. You know,
Oedipal. Yeah, that she poisons her son out of this jealous rage because he is going out with Mary Flynn. And then she exerts her power by then going to tell Mary Flynn. No, someone tells Mary Flynn about Lord de Boer, and Mary Flynn comes to the mother and says, "Please, can I have the ring that was on his finger?" And she denies that to her. She says, "No, no." So
yeah.
it's fascinating, isn't it?
It seems to me just a straight gender swap of "The Pretty Ploughboy" and those kind of songs
Mm,
is that she doesn't like the son's choice of girlfriend as opposed to he doesn't like the
yeah.
daughter's choice of boyfriend. But then in this case, it's worse because she kills him.
And then there's that Barbara Allen type ending where they both die of a broken heart.
Yeah,
But it's psychopathy, it's sort of sadism. Um, it's
yeah, I know what you
interesting,
mean. Yeah, it's just
you know?
it's astonishing. That's human nature, folks. Or not, or lack of human nature, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah, when I first sang it, I was sort of all of the mind of poor Mary Flynn and what had been done to her. But now, as a mother, you just
The
think,
focus on her, yeah, and what
what
awful
is she
mother.
doing? Why is she
Yeah,
doing that? Why didn't she just join the WI or kind of take her mind off her
yeah.
jealousy?
It's,
Just get
it's interesting
over
these
it.
songs because yeah, with a and so is this like some songs like one we covered in season one was the cruel mother,
Yeah,
and she gives birth to twin boys and then instantly kills them and buries them and then gets haunted by the ghosts of them. But
yeah,
that song tended to be used as a warning to young women, don't get pregnant or this will happen. We've even got a recording of this traditional singer Cecilia Costello singing it and
yeah,
then saying, "My father used to sing this song to me and said, 'Don't be like the woman in this story.'" And so are
yeah.
these sort of, is that what this song is? Is this song in some way meant to be a sort of a warning about being accepting of your child's love for someone else, or I don't
Or
know, is
is it something that's actually happened and that's like got
true,
embroiled in folklore? Is it
true
sort of
story,
based
yeah.
loosely on a true story? It's interesting, isn't it? But it's the how little they are at 13.
13, 14. Yeah, oh yeah, 13 in yours. I was looking at other versions and
Heartbreak.
mentioned a lot of them mentioned 14 rather than 13. But yeah,
Yeah,
nevertheless, same age, same.
they are so little, aren't they? They're only in year 8.
Yeah, but they've fallen in love.
And that's very normal, isn't it?
Yeah, that kind of it may. Who knows what had this had the mother allowed this to blossom, it may have been a lifelong love. It may have only been that kind of early teens sort of passing love.
Mm.
So no, but then I remember because we talked about the way we record things. I've done the next 2 episodes already. Next week we're covering Young Johnstone, and
Oh, I like that one.
that's a good one. And in that one, it ends with uh with the two of them with the two of them dying because one of them's killed the other one's brother, and it gets a bit confused as to the
Uh,
thing, which I found very Romeo and Juliet-ish to do with
yeah,
the ending. And in this one, we've got the two young lovers who are about the same age as Romeo and Juliet.
but my other thought, Matt, and you might wince at this because it's a bit. Do you think the mother has perimenopause? So maybe that's why she's sort of prone to these outbursts of rage, and what she actually needed to do was watch Davina McCall's documentary on iPlayer.
Yeah, quite possibly. And then you get this in taking me not long to mention films at all. You get a lot of horror films that are sort of there's a whole thing of because normally horror films you get like the villains are always men because men are awful, but at the same time you do get a lot of horror films where it turns all these what's the phrase, these grand guignol sort of horror films where the villain are these overbearing older women who
Yeah,
are controlling things from behind the scenes or whatever. And you do get some horror films where these sort of psychological horror films more where it's the mother has in her own mind formed such a strong bond with her son, her grown-up son,
yeah,
that the thought of the son falling in love with because the plot of a film, I can't remember which one it is, one I watched recently, might have been a Hammer horror film called Maniac or Paranoiac. It might be Paranoiac with Oliver Reed,
yeah,
where the Oliver Reed has basically fallen in love with, or someone's fallen in love with this woman, but the mother of the son is so terrified of the fact that the son's going to leave her for this younger woman, has set something off in her brain, and she goes on a homicidal rampage and blah blah blah. Horror films, but it's that slightly that attachment that's gone a bit too far.
but maybe it's all about the fact that they're so young and that she's not ready yet to entertain the fact that her son is going to break away from her
Yeah.
and form attachments with other women, and she can't handle it, and so she has to sabotage.
And it's that kind of thing because from a son's perspective, hello mother, as a child's love for a mother never goes, and so
No,
it's almost paranoia on the part of the mother in that case.
but it
You
just shows what the mother's put herself through and like how brutal motherhood is as well. That
Yeah,
you raise this child and you raise them so well that they want to go off and fall in love with other people because you've shown them how to fall in love.
yeah.
So the first person is the mother, and then you lose them, and you have to be at peace with that. And she isn't.
Yeah, but then this whole thing in folk song, I think Steve mentioned it earlier. We were talking about the song subject searches on the Roud Index and the Vaughan Williams site, and searching for the word poison to see how many folk songs
Yeah.
come with poison. And consequently, it again, I guess with this as well, it stems down to just jealousy. It's a bit like poison in the song "Poison in a Glass of Wine." Oxford City, Worcester City.
Yeah.
That's the man, poisoning his true love and then himself. What an idiot! Because he sees her dancing with someone else, and it's
Yeah.
all out of jealousy. And I guess this is
Yeah.
a familial jealousy in a way, rather than non-familial jealousy. But
Yeah. So interesting. And like you say, maybe this song existed because it was a warning to people. It was a way of going, exploring humanity in a powerful way in the
yeah,
the sort of means they had at the time. That instinct to understand human nature
absolutely.
and morality.
And you don't
Yeah.
often get, when you get like young lovers in songs and stories and whatever, they tend to be older than this. It tends to be like mid to late teens are what young lovers are.
Yeah.
But I find it so interesting, whether there's a connection or not, that this, with the age of the young lovers and the next song into the child ballads, which is Young Johnstone, I said, with that ending, the way that story ends, how that all seems in my mind to link somehow to Romeo and Juliet, whether there's any actual link or not, whether those kind of story tropes were in the air when Shakespeare was writing things, or whether these ballads have come out of tropes that Shakespeare created.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere, no matter how tenuous, there is a link there somewhere. But I'm not sure it's a link that anyone can actually really sort of delve into. But you do
No.
see these story tropes turning up, like, because
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet are basically 13, aren't they?
They are two star-crossed lovers.
Is that the actual age? How
It is.
I'm going to look.
You're
Not that I
going to
don't trust
Google
you,
it.
but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. Google it. And I remember thinking that at the time, oh, this is a Romeo and Juliet song.
Juliet is 13.
Yeah.
Romeo, I don't think we get an age, but it must be around then. I would hazard a guess at, say, a year or two older, because that tends to be what happens.
And do you think there's an air of, I'm going to say it, I hate this word. No, I don't hate this word. I'm just very prim in English. There's something about sexuality there, isn't there, and consent. And I wonder if the age is very significant because I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Is it something to do with maybe in Lord of Boar, Mary Flynn, Prince Robert, that maybe there's something vaguely logical about the mother's actions, like
Yes,
you are
exactly.
both too young for this, so I'm going to put a stop to it now.
You're young and vulnerable.
But she's gone about it in the wrong manner, you know.
Completely. What she should have done, what should she have done?
Sat them down, had a nice chat.
Or just let them like hang out before 6 p.m., and only in the front room.
Yeah, had a nice chat about the bird and the bees, and just have lots of supervised play dates. Play dates. That sounds even worse. But like have supervised meetings and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
until they actually decide they love each other, rather than just this kind of instant. It's all we know is love between them sprung. Whether that's like a gradual over a few weeks, or whether that's love at first sight at 13.
Yeah.
Unconvinced by that idea, but yeah, but Juliet in Romeo and Juliet is 13. We know that, and the Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet. There's always that question of like they're so young to fall in love, but all that action happens, and they both kill themselves at the end, and they're only 13.
And she probably thinks that Mary Flynn's beneath him. There's that angle as well, that maybe she's of a lower
There's
standing
there's all
and
the class issue as well.
racism.
Maybe Mary Flynn's from a poorer family,
Yeah.
because you can't be marrying a woman of a lower degree, that sort of thing.
I also wanted to mention narcissistic ambush. Have you heard of that?
Well, I know the two words, but not together as a
Right.
concept.
So you think that when the mother comes to the boy comes to see Mary Flynn, and the music was playing and the ladies were dancing all, and the tables were laid and the sheets outspread, so she's sort of having a lovely time, and then she's delivered this shocking news, and it's going to completely derail her, and that is, her life falls apart, and that's a very typical ploy when you have someone who it has these intentions to sort of project their own issues onto someone else and destroy them. So, that's effectively what the mother does. She ambushes Mary Flynn and breaks her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had too much coffee, Matt.
But yeah, it does. It is awful, though. It's like that's even though it's not a great decision to murder your son because you don't agree with the person he's dating, but then to spring the news upon her in such a way at a party, essentially at a gathering.
That's her power, isn't it? That's what she wanted to do.
That's the power to ruin the lives of Mary, the life of Mary Flynn.
She created that life, and then this woman tried to steal it from her.
Yeah. and then to refuse to give her the ring.
And that's power and control.
You'll not have. So the ring. Oh yeah, how came you him? So Mary Flynn then gone to her.
Yeah.
And she says, "How came you here, Mary Flynn? I came you here to me. The ring that was on his left finger, I've come to begot of thee, to get from you. And yeah, no ring, no ring, no ring I have for thee." Or she claims that it split that the death split the ring in three, but do we reckon that's her lying?
Her power, she's going, I am in control here. You want something symbolic to show that my son loved you more than he loved me, and go away.
Yeah.
And that's so cruel. There's no empathy.
But the mother claims that the ring was split in three from how sudden the death was. Do we reckon that's the mother lying and saying you just can't have the ring, or did the ring actually split in three?
Just showing how barbaric, you imagine him being poisoned and,
is it just
bodies started
another knife in the wound sort of thing, twisting the
I
knife?
think it probably was twisting the knife.
Yeah.
I think it's showing like the barbarism of it, and it's songs like this are so, I think, have a life because they're so maddening that something like this can happen. It's quite enticing, isn't it, when you want to sing about hardships? To have a story that doesn't end happily is tantalizing.
Yeah. And like we spoke about last week on the Barbara Allen episode, and a few episodes earlier last season with Lord Lovell and other ballads, that all these ballads that have the briar and the rose ending.
Yeah.
This ends with the two characters lying dead next to each other, but this does not end with the briar and the rose thing. You just got a quick death ending. But this is the kind of song that, as I said this last week about Barbara Allen, you can, because the briar and the rose verses are effectively a happy coda, and you can effectively tack that coda onto any song where the two romantic leads die at the end.
Yeah.
And so if you, Jackie, wanted to make this a happy ending, or at least a positive, optimistic ending, you could, because she laid her head down by his head and her side down by his side. She laid her breast down by his breast, and Mary Flynn, she died. And then you could do a couple of Briar and the Rose verses, and they are joined together after death, that sort of thing.
And that would give it something positive, but then it would be so boring.
It would be, because it happens so often. But those verses are just like a coda that you can tack on to any sad, And so I'm quite glad this one doesn't have that.
Well, we'd be into 10 minutes by then, wouldn't we? 10 minutes of song. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just ends with them dying, just like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
But I like all that. I like all that descriptive stuff about it's not the party, is it? But the mother going to Mary Flynn's hall, the high tower.
Yeah.
And then, although it's the same descriptive passage again when Mary Flynn goes to the mother's tower, the tables were laid and the sheets outspread and the candles burning all. There's three things happen in threes in ballads.
Beautiful, isn't it?
And that's another three. The tables laid, the sheets outspread, and the candles burning.
And I wonder what that's a reference to. Does that? I think it means youth and beauty and happiness. Yeah. Unexpected sorrow.
Yeah. I just like the fact, that lots of things in ballads, you get this incremental repetition, but in threes.
Yes.
I can't think of it. All your repetition stuff, the only thing came to mind was hedging and ditching, but that's two, not three, so that doesn't help my argument. But Brian Peters, in earlier episodes, like in season 1 and 2, has spoken about the repetition of three. And the fact that in that one, the tables, the sheets, the candles, it's three. It helps to bed things in the mind.
It does.
In terms of storytelling and creative writing.
And it dates it, doesn't it? It kind of dates it as being quite sort of medieval feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even in the last verse, she laid her head down by his head, her side down by his side, and her breast down by his breast. There's three. Mm-hmm. It's there as well.
Yeah.
And even the verse before, we could keep going with this for ages. No ring, Mary Flynn, she said. no ring I have for thee. That's three mentions. That's three times the word ring has turned up.
Oh, thrice the ring.
And so, yeah, I think there's something there about in terms of this is in terms of creative writing and artistic
Yeah,
license. The three turns up a lot in folk songs. Things are mentioned three times, or you might get a certain passage
oh,
of
I
text
love
that's
that.
mentioned three times because it happens three times. Someone travels to
Yeah,
somewhere and goes across the fields, over the hills, and down the valley, and that happens again and
yeah.
again. And so, on a purely sort of creative writing aspect, this song has a few threes, and I quite like that.
Oh, I like that too. I was just thinking, like, talking about the tables laid and the candles. I'm going to Harry Potter Studios on Sunday,
Ah,
and I was just thinking I'm going to the Great Hall. Yes, so I shall think of it.
and whether you want to do, yeah, the Great Hall where all the food appears, and whether you want to get into the whole elf slave labor stuff to do with the fact that not the elves, the dwarves. No, they're elves,
Yeah.
aren't they? In Harry
Oh,
Potter, they're elves. I get confused between Lord of the Rings elves and dwarves and Harry Potter elves and dwarves.
yeah.
It's all the elves, Dobby and Winky and all that lot are underneath the hall making in the kitchens, and
Poor
then
Dobby.
they don't get paid, and that sends Hermione on a thoroughly boring side plot to do with elf rights and things.
Yeah.
If you really want to read book 4 again, they're quite long. I mean, I like them. All the J.K. Rowling stuff aside, I quite like the books and film and
Yes.
stuff, but they can be a bit long.
Gosh.
But yeah, the Great Hall, I see what you mean. The tables are laid and all that stuff. Yeah.
And the other thought I had, having had too much coffee, is if you go to Maddie Pryor's thing up in where is it? Near Carlisle. She's got this beautiful
Yes, because it's near Bewcastle, isn't it?
yes, and Stones Barn. If you do a course up there on the Saturday night, the tables are laid and the sheets outspread and the candles burning all,
There we
and you
go.
have this like candlelit meal and everyone sings, and it's a bit like being in Lauderdale and Mary Flynn, but without the death.
You could do one of those like murder mystery parties, but
Yeah.
you get some people in to enact the ballad around you.
Oh,
There's
like
scope for that
that.
there, or
Yeah.
maybe
Oh,
not.
folkloric murder mystery party. That's a great idea.
But yeah, but all that's all of that stuff, the threes, and which is just a writing thing
Yeah.
more than a subject thing. But then yeah, all that stuff about it's as you said when you were first singing this song, for you it was all about Mary Flynn, but as you're
Yeah.
older and you're a mother yourself, it's now all about the mother.
Yes.
I think this is the thing. I think songs don't change. I mean, they do change obviously because oral tradition things change, but if you've got one version of a song that you sing for years, the song doesn't change, but you change,
Hmm.
and your attitude towards the thing changes.
Mm-hmm.
I have this with films. People always ask me why I've watched a certain film so many times because you know it now. It's like, yeah, the film hasn't changed, but
Yeah.
I've changed. I've changed through life and through work and everything. So what I feel about things has changed. And consequently, when I watch something again or I listen to something again, my opinion about it has changed. What I find in songs has changed. And
Absolutely.
this for you, life has happened to you. And consequently,
Really
now
have.
this song feels more about the mother than about Mary Flynn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and yeah, it's just and the whole we could talk a bit longer about poisoning rather than that's a quite a malicious thing because it's secretive
Yeah.
in its delivery rather than
Mhm.
stabbing a knife or cutting off someone's head and kicking it against the wall as in other ballads and things.
But she is providing for her boy. It's what mothers do. They feed and clothe their children, and she's tricking him. She's going,
Yeah,
come and have a drink. That's just so unmotherly, isn't it?
she fetched a cask of the very best wine and poured a glass for him. But false with her 2 fingers, she put strong poison in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all deception and
And
death.
the fact that he's just about to go and see Mary Flynn, it's like so petulant, isn't it? Come and have a drink before you go, sabotaging his leaving her.
Yeah,
Mm.
what a great song.
It is.
And it really is a great song. This is a thing we have on the folk scene where people like you and me and everyone on the folk scene, in a way, has just become accustomed to this kind of awful subject matter in song form.
Yeah.
And if you try to explain folk music to people who don't know much about it, it's quite tricky to explain why we love this sort of subject matter.
But it's the subject matter combined with the melody. It's the fact that the
Yes.
melody goes downwards as you get to the like really poignant line. There's something so satisfying. Ah, ba-da-dee-dee-dum, da-dee-dum, da-dum, ba-dee-dee-dum, ba-da. And then it's the couplet. Da-dee-dee-dum, ba-dum, ba-da. It's that
Ah,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
and that coincides with the really like the pathos within the words. Both go
Mm.
hand in hand, don't they? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a great song. It would be really turgid.
Well, it's just whether some of these started out as actual like poetry, then
Yeah,
tunes put to them, or whether we don't know. But yeah, obviously, yeah, and song melodies are so much of why we like singing them, because it's
yeah,
beautiful melodies and how they pair with this the text of this awful story.
yeah.
But even then, it's you get people who don't. Yeah, it's quite. We become so accustomed to singing about awful tragedies that we sometimes forget to really take into account how awful it is. Songs like The
Yes,
Demon Lover and this and The
yeah.
Cruel Mother, The Two Sisters, that's sibling, that sort of thing. It's just, yeah, we become so used to that we
Hmm.
sometimes forget to take a step back and go, oh, no, actually, the subject matter of this song is absolutely horrific.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we end up singing it and singing it again over and over at gigs, and you just
Yeah.
I've it's My Fair Lady. I've become accustomed to her face. It's all that. It's we just get used to it in a way
Yeah.
which I don't think we should sometimes get used to it.
Nay, nay. Totally agreed, but
Yeah,
it's got its value. Yeah.
yeah. And then on the revival, I mean, it's not been sung. Talking about this with Steve Roud, the Scots versions of this, the Prince Roberts of the world. That's all we've got in the history side of things. Uh, in Child and other collections, that's all there is the Scots versions. And
Hmm.
then we've got this one American thing called Harry Saunders, which Peggy Seeger has recorded in 1976 on an album of hers with Ewan McCall called No Time Like the Present. But it's on there, Harry Saunders, Peggy Seeger singing that. Um, but then basically, this song then exists in oral tradition and on the revival in Ireland, basically.
Yes.
And that's where we get Lord Abor and Mary Flynn. And we can only assume that Abor is some kind of transmogrification of Robert, since the
Yeah.
since the earliest things we have in print are no broadsides, but in Child and stuff is all Robert, and therefore Abor is almost Robert but flipped round, kind of.
Yeah. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've on the revival side to recommend people singing this stuff, which we'll do to wrap up. A lot of it's Irish. I mean, you learnt it from uh, Sean O'Shea, didn't you? That was
Sean O'Shea,
Sean
yes,
O'Shea.
and I
Sorry,
do think he probably learned it from Al O'Donnell, and I'd really recommend listening to his beautiful version. So I didn't hear this until after mine, but there's something, gosh, he was a genius, wasn't he?
that's quite hard to track down though, because that's only out on an LP.
Oh,
I
really?
think that's
Oh,
that's
the
that's the LP called Al O'Donnell 2, because it's
two.
his second one, and it came out on a transatlantic. Oh, it's Trailer. It came out on the Leader LP, but the
Oh,
Trailer side of Leader in 1978.
and there's this solo banjo accompaniment, and it's just
Yeah,
carries the song. It's
it's
so
lovely, isn't it?
lovely.
And so
Yeah.
that's a 1978 LP from Al O'Donnell called Al O'Donnell 2. It's the middle of side two of that.
And then there's Kaladnua Do It. They've got a beautiful version that you can access quite easily.
Oh, good.
And then there's Lankum as well. Lankum do a great version.
Oh, yeah, Lankham, that's the most, according to our lovely friends mainly Norfolk, that's on their 2023 album, False Lankham. And that
Yes.
appears to be the most recent recording of the song, but
Yes.
we should bring it back a bit. But there's Aladon and Lankum, and the other Irish ones, and I've got a couple of, and there's one more. There's actually one Scots recording of it as well.
Oh, really?
Which is a revival. I mean, Steve Byrne, who has done some history for the podcast before,
Amazing.
was involved in a project with Fiona Hunter, Siobhan Miller, Lucy Pringle, and my old university colleague and brief housemate, Kirsty Law, and she's been on the podcast before as well. They were involved in a CD called Scots Sangs, and that's not songs of the Scots, that's songs from Sir Walter Scott's Minstrelsy of the Scottish Border collection.
I want to listen
So
to that.
Scott apostrophe S, Scots Sangs. And so the five of them made an album called Scots Sangs, which is subtitled Revisiting the Ballads of the Minstrelsy of the Scottish Border, so Walter Scott's collection. And it was a big project, the Walter Scott Minstrelsy Project. And on there, Steve Byrne sings Prince Robert, actually one of the Prince Robert versions.
And Ewan McLennan sings it too.
Ah, there we go. Oh, yes, so he does. Beg your pardon. You on 2014 on a Fellside album, Stories Still Untold. Steve Byrne's sleeve notes. Yes, he's got that one, and he talks a bit about the Irish ones. That's what he talks about, because it was collected by Tom Mullany, the ballad collector, in 1970, from two singers, Jim Kelly and Frank Feeney. We mentioned them in the first half. So it seems to be like historically it's Scotland, and then what we have in the oral tradition is Ireland, and then in the revival it's mostly Ireland. Apart from Peggy Seeger had a crack at the American one, Steve Byrne and Ewan McLennan have done the Scots ones, and then England, it appears to be you.
Hooray!
Hooray! Maybe someone else will pick it up as well. Good. So that's 2006, your first album called Jackie Oates.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
Oh.
And so that's basically all there is.
Okay, it's lovely revisiting it, isn't it? And
yeah, it's nice. Sometimes I try and get guests on who sing this song currently, or who have sung this song have learnt it for their most recent album. For this is a song you haven't recorded for. I don't know if you still sing it a lot, but it's certainly one you recorded in 2006. You know.
Mention I've been bookbinding. I've taken up a new hobby, and
you've done some bookbinding.
I've been revisiting all my albums and notating them all, and looking at the history. And so this, funnily enough, I just revisited this song as part of my new craft hobby. So it's nice to go back over it again. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, I think we'll leave things there. Thanks so much for coming on and doing this. We were trying to find a way for you to come on the podcast because we had you on the Patreon over a year ago.
Yes, it's a real honour. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing.
Oh, thanks. And we'll definitely try and get you back in the future. I will literally never run out of songs. So there'll always be scope, I reckon, for you coming back for other songs, because there are so many songs. Lovely to see you and to chat about all that sort of thing. Until we see each other again on the Roud Index, Jackie Oates, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt Quinn. Lord Abor and Mary Flynn were both children young. They were scarcely 13 years of age. Love between them sprung, when the love between them sprung. Now Lord Abor was going out one day, and when his mother came to know, "You were going away, my son," she said, "you must drink before you go. You will drink before you go." She's called for a cask of the very best wine, and filled a glass for him. Ah, but false, false with her 2 fingers, she put strong poison in. She put strong poison in. Oh, why, dear mother, he said, have you poisoned me full sore? It is so, my own young son, she said, you will see Mary Flynn no more. You shall see Mary Flynn no more. Is there anybody here in this household will go on an errand for me? Who will go to Mary Flynn's high tower and fetch her here to me? And up and spoke a young serving boy, I'm your faithful servant, said he. I will go to Mary Flynn's high tower and fetch her here to thee, and fetch her here to thee. And when he came to Mary Flynn's high tower and stepped into the hall, oh, the tables were laid and the music played and the ladies dancing all. What brought you here, Mary Flynn, she said, what brought you here to me? Has my grandmother set a place for you, or yet invited thee? Nor yet invited thee. No, your grandmother's not set a place for me, nor invited me, he said. And then he told this Mary Flynn that Lord Abor was dead, that Lord Abor was dead. Oh, send for me the swiftest steed, go saddle me the grey, that I may ride to my true love's side without the least delay. And when she came to Lord Abor's tower and stepped into the hall, oh, the tables were laid and the sheets outspread and the candles burning all, and the candles burning all. What brought you here, Mary Flynn, she said, what brought you here to me? Oh, the ring that was on his left finger I've come to get of thee. No ring, Mary Flynn, she said, no ring have I for thee. For the pain of death, it came so sharp, it split the ring in 3. She laid her cheek down by his cheek, her side down by his side. She laid her breast down by his breast, and Mary Flynn she died, and Mary Flynn she died.
That was Jackie Oates singing Lord Abor and Mary Flynn. And that brings us to the end of this episode. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk, or visit the podcast on various social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/intheroudpod. Our Instagram and Threads handle is at InTheRoudPod, and our Blue Sky handle is at intheroud.bsky.social. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you would give us a little rating and review, and please do subscribe as well, all on wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps the podcast to ride the algorithm wave. I can't even say that. Ride the algorithm wave. You try saying that 3 times. I'm going to try once more. That really helps the podcast to ride the algorithm wave and reach a wider audience. Thank you. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guests, Steve Roud and Jackie Oates. Join me next week for episode 6 of this season. We will be looking at Roud 56, which is child ballad number 88, Young Johnstone. My history guest will be Steve Roud again, and my singer guest will be Ellen Mitchell. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.